Welcome back to Outside Views. Today we're exploring the UK's accession to the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, or CPTPP. While the government at the time has touted this as the most significant trade deal since Brexit, many argue it's a far cry from the economic benefits the UK enjoyed as part of the European Union. It's a turning point for Britain's post-Brexit ambitions. Or is it just another example of overstated gains from an otherwise questionable decision? Let's dive deep into the history, the context and the reality of what this means for Britain's economy and its place in the world. To fully grasp the significance of the CPTPP deal, we must first rewind to 2016. The Brexit referendum was sold to the British public on promises of sovereignty, control and economic renewal. One of the core arguments from the Vote Leave campaign was that the UK would be free to strike trade deals globally, unshackled by EU regulations. At the time, this vision painted a picture of a dynamic, globally connected Britain flourishing through its independent trade policy. Yet 8 years later, the reality looks quite different. The CPTPP is a trade bloc originally formed in 2018 as the successor to the Trans-Pacific Partnership. It consists of 11 nations, including economic heavyweights like Japan and Canada, alongside smaller countries like Vietnam and Brunei. Together, these nations account for around 15% of global GDP. The bloc was designed as a counterweight to China's growing influence in the Asia-Pacific region, though Beijing has since applied for membership, a complex geopolitical twist that raises questions about the bloc's future. The UK became the 12th member on December 15th, making it the first European nation to join the Pacific-centric trade partnership. The government has hailed this as a major post-Brexit win, the Tory government before. But how significant is it really? According to government estimates, the economic boost from joining the CPTPP is projected to be a mere 0.08% of GDP annually. And that's approximately £2 billion, a figure dwarfed by the losses incurred from leaving the EU single market. To put it into context, the Office for Budget Responsibility estimates that Brexit will reduce the UK's trade intensity by 15% over the long term. And this means the CPTPP isn't just insufficient to close the gap, it doesn't even come close. Consider the trade figures. In the year leading up to September 2024, the UK's total trade was valued at £1.7 trillion. Of that, over 40% was with the European Union. And meanwhile, the CPTPP nations combined accounted for just 8% of UK trade. Japan, the largest CPTPP economy, already has a bilateral trade agreement with the UK. In fact, much of the trade that the UK will conduct with CPTPP members is already covered by pre-existing deals rolled over from its EU membership. So what exactly is new here? And the answer, unfortunately, is not much. One of the starkest contrasts is the relationship between proximity and trade. And geography matters. The EU, being Britain's closest and largest trading partner, provided seamless access to a market of 450 million people. As part of the single market, UK businesses enjoyed tariff-free trade and minimal regulatory barriers. The CPTPP, while valuable in its own right, cannot replicate this. The countries in this bloc are thousands of miles away, making trade more expensive and less efficient. And the idea that this deal can somehow compensate for the economic losses of Brexit is, at best, wishful thinking. But why was the CPTPP pursued so vigorously by the UK government? The answer lies in optics and the need to showcase post-Brexit successes. When the original Brexit vision of securing a landmark trade deal with the United States failed to materialize, the Conservative government turned to the CPTPP as its flagship achievement. Yet even this achievement comes with caveats. The very nature of the CPTPP means the UK must make concessions on issues like food standards and imports, potentially exposing British farmers to competition from countries with lower regulatory thresholds. And this has raised concerns about the long-term impact on domestic industries, already struggling with the consequences of Brexit. And now let's examine the geopolitical implications. The CPTPP was conceived as a strategic counter to China's influence in the Pacific, as I said. For the UK, joining this bloc signals a pivot toward the Indo-Pacific region, aligning with its broader global Britain strategy. But this pivot comes with risks. China's application to join the CPTPP complicates the bloc's purpose, and the UK's involvement could create tensions with its European neighbours. After all, trade alliances often reflect political alignments, and Britain's membership in a Pacific-focused bloc may be seen as a distraction from repairing its strained ties with the EU. And this brings us to the Labour government under Prime Minister Keir Starmer. While Starmer has committed to resetting relations with the EU, he has ruled out rejoining the single market or the customs union. And this cautious stance aims to balance appeasing pro-Remain voters while not alienating Leave supporters. Yet many argue this middle ground approach is insufficient to address the economic challenges Brexit has indeed created. As Dominic Grieve, the co-president of European Movement UK, pointed out, no trade agreement, including the CPTPP, can replicate the benefits of the single market. Documents released alongside the UK's most recent budget show flatlining economic growth and weak trade performance. Brexit has introduced barriers that have slowed the flow of goods, and it increased costs and reduced competitiveness. The promise of global Britain as a trading powerhouse remains unfulfilled, with key trade deals, including one with the United States, still out of reach. Even within the CPTPP, Britain is more of an outlier than a central player, geographically and economically. So what does all of this mean for the UK's future? The CPTPP is not inherently a bad deal. It's a valuable partnership that provides access to a growing market. But it's not a game changer. It's a step forward, but a very small one, especially when compared to the step back that was Brexit. For the UK to truly rebuild its economic strength, it must address the elephant in the room, its relationship with the EU. And while rejoining the EU may not be politically feasible in the near term, deeper ties and closer cooperation are essential. The single market is geographically and economically indispensable for the UK, and any trade policy that sidelines this reality is inherently flawed. And as we conclude, let's take a moment to reflect. The CPTPP is a symbol of the UK's attempt to carve out a new identity post-Brexit. But symbols don't feed economies. Trade deals must be measured by their tangible benefits, and on that front, the CPTPP falls short of the promises made in 2016. The question now is whether Britain's leaders will continue chasing distant markets at the expense of repairing relationships closer to home. So thank you for watching Outside Views again. But what's your take on the CPTPP? Is it a step in the right direction, or is it another missed opportunity to address the deeper issues caused by Brexit? Leave your thoughts in the comments below the video, and as always, stay informed and stay curious. Until next time, and the next video is already right here in the end screen.